On the decks of one of our biggest warships, the NATO boss praised Australia for being on board with the international alliance.
Australia and NATO in Europe, Brussels, we are far apart, but we are the closest of partners.
That partnership was strengthened late last year with a joint declaration to work more closely. But some analysts say this is a deal Australia should scrap.
I would advise against that. I think that's a money and political sinkhole for Canberra.
Australia's been working with NATO for 15 years, not as a member, but as a so-called global partner. We've sent 26,000 men and women to NATO operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. 47 have died. We've also donated around $500 million to NATO missions, participated in war games and worked together on cyber defence. But doubts have been raised over whether the 71-year-old Europe-based organisation can protect us against our most pressing threats.
NATO is ill-defined and confused right now and operates a world away. Australian national security interests are not at stake in Europe. Australia should devote its resources to the emerging Chinese threat and seek to raise the alarm, use its profile to raise the alarm with regard to Chinese expansionist plans in Asia.
Well, NATO is just as relevant today as it was when it was first created. Although NATO, like the rest of us, NATO members and the NATO organisation itself are having to adapt with changing geostrategic circumstances. Distance is just a mindset. What is important to all of us is working in new ways together to make sure that we preserve the rules-based order.
The latest defence white paper stresses the potential threat from China. It says in the next 20 years, half of the world's submarines and at least half of the world's advanced combat aircraft will be operating in Asia and the Pacific. Minister, why should we be sending even more money to Europe-based organisations like NATO when our most pressing security threats are in this part of the world?
NATO is certainly aware of what is happening in our own region. So the Indo and the Pacific are both becoming increasingly contested and less stable. So this is our home, it's our part of the world, and our insights and our friendships and our relationships are of great interest, but also great value to like-minded countries in the Northern Hemisphere.
Australia already has security agreements with the US, UK and others, and intelligence sharing relationships, including through the Five Eyes network. Though prominent figures, including former Foreign Minister Alexander Downer, have pushed for even closer NATO ties. And NATO members also urge Australia not to abandon ship.
In the future, it will be America and China fighting for way of life. And of course, this confrontation will involve the whole region. So if Australia wants to survive like free and democratic country, they have to stay with us.
The NATO-Australia relationship has survived so much over 15 years, though the world's quite different to what it was in 2005, and it may not exactly be smooth sailing ahead for this alliance. Brent O'Halloran, Sky News.